If you saw my video on phrase mixing, you know how to count beats, bars and phrases. You know how to look at visual indicators in the waveform to see when a new phrase begins and to find the most ideal moment to mixing your second track. But how do you do this on vinyl? When you have no CDJ with a waveform showing you, but only a spinning disc. Let's dive in. This is phrase mixing on vinyl. So normally you have your CDJ with your waveform over here, and you can look at visual indicators where a new phrase begins. You see the dips clearly in the waveform, you know where the break is, you know where the drop is. You can see an overview of the whole track. When you have your vinyl spinning, you're more dependent on your knowledge of the track and counting. So it's very important to know your track, so you know where the break begins, when the break begins. You have a feeling with the track, you can feel the track, you know the track by your head and know indicators like, okay, yeah, this is the point when the break begins, oh, this is the point where the drop begins. You must train yourself on all those indicators that tell you when a new phrase begins. So know your tracks. That's actually the most important, I think. But if you don't know the track that well, you can always just count the bars and count to a new phrase. So let's do that. The track is spinning. Let's search for the beginning of the track and let's just count the bars and have a listen when we hear a new phrase coming. So a new phrase normally starts around 8 bars, but it can also be 16 or 32. It always depends on the track. So let's have a listen. Let's search for the beginning of the track. There it is. So I'll start the track and start counting the bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah. You hear? There's more percussion coming up after 16 bars. So after 16 bars, a new phrase begins in this particular track on vinyl. So now we know that after 16 bars, a new phrase begins. So that's where we have to align our track with. Another thing you can do with vinyl, because I was talking about knowing the track, listening and counting, but you can also take a look at the vinyl, because on the CDJ we have a waveform, but on vinyl we also have that waveform in grooves, literally grooves on vinyl. So we can take a closer look at the vinyl. If you can't see it that well, you can use the little light over there and just have a very close look at the grooves. If you look closely, you can see places where dips are in this waveform. So those are also indicators on where a new phrase begins. So that's also a thing you can do. Take a closer look at your vinyl. But guys, the most safe way in mixing vinyl in phrase is know your tracks. Play them, count with them, and just know when something is changing. That is the most important thing on phrase mixing with vinyl. Yeah, and that's it. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Keep counting, know your tracks, very important. And yeah, take a closer look at the vinyl. It might tell you more than you think. Good luck practicing and have fun with it. Peace.